can't argue that there are no objective scientific open definitions of beauty. The very standard for judging aesthetic beauty is more subjective rather than objective. It is virtually impossible to lay down a concept that defines beauty in art. The closest people can get in setting the baseline for beauty is where a group of people determine standards for the interpretation of beauty. However, this collective effort varies greatly across cultures and civilizations. Based on the premise that there are no scientific standards for defining beauty, the world of art may mark out something as exemplary only as a mere idea which other individual artists can perceive and reproduce according to their own consciousness. According to that, a model or archetype can be seen as an idea, whereas an ideal of beauty means the representation of an individual's inner perception and portrayal of the ideal. Therefore, a good idea is based on the desire to find the idea and not to create a prototype from which a lot of the same item can be reproduced. This philosophy draws a dichotomy between art and science. Whereas science often seeks to provide a model from which many units can be reproduced efficiently and effectively at the lowest cost, the art archetype gives an idea of beauty based on which other artists can communicate their deeper thoughts and emotions. There is a question about whether the definition of an ideal in art is based on popular preference or some empirical facts. It is apparent that what is ideal is fixed and based on some objective or finality. Thus, it is not solely a subjective thing. It is a definition of a normal idea of what presents aesthetic beauty. Additionally, there is a generally accepted ideal of beauty. This is defined by a group of people based on their subjective judgments. This subjective definition is based on the fact that the ideal work of art awakens an inner consciousness in the people of the group in question. The underlying factors that influence this definition include the generally accepted values, morals, and norms in the culture of the people in question. Thus, in linking the two ideas of normal art and popular idea, it can be noted that artworks that provoke absolute aesthetic pleasure in a given society have elements of both factors. First, it must conform to the standards accepted by the authorities of art in the jurisdiction. Secondly, it must be acceptable to the larger society as a whole. In other words, it must contain features that most people accept as beautiful. It must also be added that the definition of an ideal work of art varies across cultures and races because the definition of beauty varies across cultural and racial lines. The normal idea becomes ideal if it contains moral expressions that are universally positive and not merely academically correct. This can be done through a clever blend of pure ideas of reason and great cognitive and imaginative abilities. In conclusion, Kant argues that the ideal beauty in art can be obtained by a discrete blend of aesthetic beauty based on laid down rules and a judgment of taste. If you follow me carefully, I'm sure the text before us talks about beauty, but my first question will be, what would be our understanding of beauty in itself?
I think beauty is the quality present in a thing or a person that gives intense satisfaction to the mind. Depending on the way we see it or depending on how we see it, I see that to be beautiful because of her goodness. You might see that to be beautiful because of her
say from what she's saying that the definition of beauty is more subjective than objective. So it's your own opinion than maybe what Kant is referring to, that as the actually Kant said in I think line 2, he mentioned that aesthetic beauty is more subjective rather than objective, which is the example that she has given.
To add to what you said, I think beauty is both subjective and objective, because if you don't have pleasure in seeing the thing, you cannot like it. No matter how people describe it as beautiful, you have to feel it inside you. The pleasure, that sense is beautiful.
But isn't that subjective though? How is that subjective?
It's vice versa. Subject, mind, understanding. I have to understand something before I say it's beautiful. If I'm not able to express it, that it's beautiful.
I think it's subjective because
It's
from the way you are presenting it, it sounds subjective rather than objective.
But beauty, in the passage, line 6, he says it varies greatly across cultures and civilizations. So it is subjective and objective, because in one jurisdiction, beauty is one thing, and then another jurisdiction is something else. As, for example, in the West, even when you look at these runway shows, they have their own idea of what beauty is. All the women are slim and tall and skinny. But in Ghana, I think we see beauty as something else. The woman has to be voluptuous, and that is what we see beauty as. So it's subjective and it's objective, because there are laid down, rules of what beauty should be in every part of the world, and at the same time, beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder. So I can say something is beautiful and you know something else.
And referring also to the same line 6, seeing that it varies greatly across cultures. I think it becomes objective when a group of people agree that, okay, this is a nice bottle of water. Maybe a group of people came together and said, this bottle is nice, let's sell it, right? So, if let's say the 5 of us are on the board to design this bottle, right? And then each of us has our own individual subjective opinions on the beauty of the bottle. And then we all come together and maybe 4 out of 5 of us decide that the bottle is nice, it's beautiful. So it becomes objective for everyone else to kind of argue about the beauty of the bottle. So that's when it becomes subjective. And then it's subjective, it's like subjective comes collectively and it becomes objective. Am I making sense?
Yeah.
Well, you landed on a point that takes me to my next question, because I was going to ask. I heard subjective, objective. What do you consider to be subjective?
I think when something is subjective to the thing, it depends on me how I see the thing.
When the person said
So it's your own opinion, it's your own, the way you,
Objective is a general perception. What we say, what we all say. Like she says, as I said in Africa, we want to see the woman curvy and all. Okay, that's a general perception of Africans. That's how we see beauty in a woman. Meanwhile, we always keep our things that way.
After having talked about the subjective element, what is Kant's?
Just a minute. Because it's a dry run, I think we have to. So far, I think it's been good. Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah.
Excellent. But I think it's been amazing. Yeah. Do you like the interaction? Yeah. Great. Now, there's one clear thing about Kuma, right? Making a good reference to the text. Points she has. And most of us have actually been concentrating on in general. Remember, we have to also make reference to the text. Maybe to clarify some of the points. What is subjective, what is objective? If there is answer in the text, you can actually make that. So we're not only talking about opinions and things, but also references to the text. You get it? I just wanted to make that clear so that it wouldn't be like you don't focus on the text as well. So that's a good point. And I think that I like the way you guys are clarifying thoughts. You know, somebody says subjective and somebody says, well, actually what you explained is objective. That is a very good way of what? Trying to clear or clarify. But the fact is that you have to ask that you have to add that is your opinion anyway. You understand? You have to use the diplomatic languages. We have to see that. You have to say, well, I should, sometimes I use that word like, I politely disagree with you. All right? It's a disagreement. It can be contentious. But whenever you use those diplomatic words, it soothes any offense if the person has taken offense. So you can actually use certain glittering words to actually disagree or to make some points. You could see that there were some kind of banter. Did you realize between Abokuma and Nadede?
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you interrupted each other. Did you see it? Yeah. Yeah, you interrupted it. You interrupted each other. So at the board meeting, that could be heated argument. But the understanding is, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't do, but how you manage it. And that was obviously managed properly. You understand? So sometimes you say, oh, okay, sorry, let me allow you to talk. You get the point. These are some of the things that we're trying to learn. As soon as you make sure there's a clash of, because you wouldn't know that somebody wants to speak, would you? But as soon as you realize, oh, sorry, let me allow you to land. You get the point. Yeah, so that's a good point. Let's continue. So far, so good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Excellent. So I'm marking mine. In fact, it looks like my partner is doing well. So make sure that you do a good job for your partner. All right. So yeah, group leader, back to you.
Let's look at the 7.
Yeah, you can go on. Yeah, you can go on. Yeah.
Now you go.
You can go on. Yeah.
Stated that based on the premise that there are no scientific standards in defining beauty, the world of art may mark out something as exemplary only as a mere idea which other individual artists can perceive and reproduce according to their own consciousness. We look at the subjectivity and the objectivity of beauty. The fact that the African culture or an African considers a curvy woman as a beautiful woman doesn't mean that is, there are clear-cut description of beautiful women. There are no scientific standards in defining beauty. Okay, so it's based on your individual perception and your individual judgment of beauty. You can see a canvas painting that is painted, an abstract painting that is painted by Peter. You consider it as a nice painting. And you can also consider a canvas painting that is painted by Jojo. You consider it as a nice painting. But until we are able to put meaning to the abstract painting, it's your individual perception of what the beauty is in the painting. What you said, are you referring to objective or subjective? I'm referring to subjective. And then to add to your subjective, when you come to line 10 and then 11, it goes on to say of beauty means the representative of individuals' inner perception. This is subjective, it's referring to your inner perception.
But I don't know, I think I would disagree and politely disagree and say that there still are standards for beauty, regardless of what your opinion is. Because in my it says the closest people can get in setting the baseline for beauty is where a group of people determine standards for the interpretation of beauty. So there are standards.
And, but he went on to say that, he went on to say that, however, this collective effort varies greatly across cultures and civilizations. So even though there are determined standards for the interpretation of beauty, it varies across cultures and civilizations.
But there still are standards.
Based on your culture or your civilization.
I tend to agree with Excellency. I think that, I mean, in as much as beauty is a subjective issue, collectively, people could come together and identify what beauty is. Understandably, as I said across the table, it may vary from one position, I mean, one area to another. So, what the ever may consider as beautiful, the Ashanti may not necessarily consider as beautiful, but they can be considered as beautiful as well. So, the Ashantis and the Ghans may agree on one area, and you find the others in the Nigerian also agree on one area. It is entirely possible that Ghanaians and the interpretation may agree on one area. So, it may be collective in a certain sense, I mean, subjective in a certain sense, but collectively also objective in certain sense.
I agree with you with the standard. When it comes to the standard, in Ghana we have beauty pageants. At the end of the day, we have a lot of women, but at the end, the judges choose somebody, so which means they are doing according to the standard.
And still talking about beauty pageants, I'm sure you realize that we have several pageants that run. Ghana's is beautiful. There's Malaika. There's Miss Ghana. And they all seem to have different shades of beauty. I mean, when you look at that, Ghana is beautiful for it. They seem to towards different line altogether. Yeah. Malaika and Miss Ghana may be on the same trend, but Ghana's beautiful seems to be on a totally different trend and different line altogether. So their standard for beauty seems to be different from what we normally know.
Looking at it from another perspective altogether, in line 14, where it talks about the art and the science, from line 14 all the way to 20, it basically says that maybe when you're looking at it from the angle of science, it can define beauty in a way that it can be replicated. You understand? So a scientist can come and say this is beautiful. It's a standard, so it can be done. Like maybe let me use the bottle again. The bottle, according to a scientist, is beautiful. The bottle can be replicated over and over again. But then when you're looking at beauty from the art angle, an artist will come with an item, put it down, and then each individual will come and say, okay, I like this portion, I don't like this, I like this. So each individual has their own, they have their own version of the item that is being.
Even if you look at cars, you know, every car has a different look. But at the end of the day, you have a section of people preferring one car to the other.
So even if using the cars for example as well, even if there are different classes of cars, within each class there are different types of cars, which lets you know how subjective like people's taste and preference can be as well.
Nobody wants to jump into the hot seat for me.
Yeah, take the hot seat. See,
What are you doing there?
so far, you can see that when the conversation about beauty was being held, they mostly discussed the cants, the beauty and what is objective. But you can see that they've moved it forward now. How did they move it forward? Abokuma brought in the perspective about the sciences and the arts. Earlier on, that wasn't the theme. It was a different. So they moved it forward. So it looks like now they are now still now. After, and they haven't even. Have you seen it? So I was like, come on, let's move it forward. Then she came with it. It was perfect. So now the conversation gone to another step. But they haven't dealt that one. They've sort of they've said something about it, but then not into detail as the first one. I think they are losing mojo now. They're losing mojo. The first interaction had gone on for almost about what?
10 minutes.
10 minutes, and it was lively. Then the conversation became a little bit stale. Then she brought in the perspective about the scientists and the ants and how they and now it's like, yeah, so you can join the hot seat.
Is the hot seat supposed to emphasize what they've already
maybe you can, okay, if you have another perspective of what they have said, you can come in. Or maybe another theme, you recognize another theme and you think they haven't dealt with it. You can come and sit in and throw light on it and then let them move the conversation forward. You get the point? Yeah, so the hot seat is here. It fetches a lot of marks though. You have a lot of marks if you can actually move the conversation. Okay.
For the partner.
Yeah. You want to jump in? Okay, good. Yeah. Your name is, sorry?
Emmanuel Martin.
Emmanuel. Okay. Yeah, Emmanuel is coming to the hot seat. Yeah. Let's do this. Yeah.
Thank you very much
Excellent.
for giving me the opportunity to join you. I must say I so much appreciate the in-depth knowledge discussions we've had. However, I would like to give a little contribution so that we can move from there. If you look at 26, we have factors that influence this definition include the general accepted values, morals, and norms in a culture. So I would like us to look at those factors in defining beauty. Thank you.
Sit in a little bit. It's 5 minutes.
So, in the light of the point you just made, let's just go on that line. What are the factors? What general factors would underline beauty in terms of morals and norms?
I'd like to give an example. So, when we are talking about norms and values and morals, if you go to a church, there are norms and values and morals of, how you're supposed to dress to church. So, assuming someone comes in and is wearing a mini skirt, it's not the the norm in the church, so it's not considered beautiful in the church. But on the other hand, if we go to a nightclub and somebody comes in with Kabbalah states, everybody will be raising eyebrows and say, okay, what is she wearing? And that sort of thing. So I think it's true that norms and values in the culture of, the setting and the culture and the place also determines what is beautiful.
Another example that I can give is in the, I'm not sure what exactly is, the people, you know how they dress the Kroger people, they dress the ladies in the beads and then they're exposed and all of that. In their culture, it's a beautiful ceremony, it's a beautiful thing for the ladies to dress like that and showcase their beauty to the people in the town. But if you take that same lady dressed like that and you put her in Europe, they will probably even call the cops on you saying it's nudity or something like that. So that's a typical example of, that's a good example of what beauty is in terms of culture difference.
You wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was still supporting what the ladies listening to my testimony. It says it must be, the norms and values must be acceptable to the larger society as a whole. If you dress to the nightclub in Kabbalah suit, of course it's not accepted. And if you go to the church in hot pants, it's also not accepted. So you have to be sure that whatever you are doing or whatever you are presenting yourself, it should be acceptable to the larger society.
And stressing, and like 31 again, stressing on the larger society as a whole. It could be a norm for the church to not allow miniskirts, right? But then it doesn't mean that 100% of everyone in the church does not accept miniskirts. It's the majority of the people in the church will not accept it. It doesn't mean everyone doesn't accept it. So it's not like 100% that everyone has to agree that this is beautiful, which would make it a norm. It's the fact that a majority of the people in the society agree to it. So with the example that I gave about the people, it's not everybody who will be in their society that agrees that it's normal or it's beautiful. But then that doesn't make it not normal in that particular culture or society.
And in looking at the values, morals, and norms, can't it also go to the instance of the language, how one is able to communicate with people? So that when one is found using vulgar language, it doesn't matter the features you have. Morally, it's unacceptable in most societies. So could that also be a standard that we could look at beauty? In addition to that, within every society, there are rules and regulations that governs people within a group of people. So we judge people's attitude or or beauty or moral life by the way they conform to these rules and regulations that govern us. Example, if you come to Africa, it doesn't matter how beautiful you are or handsome you are, whichever way you define it. But if you are found being a lesbian or a homosexual, the general perception about you ill-define your beauty. Maybe you move from this sect to Europe where it is acceptable. So within their confinement of their rules and laws, it's acceptable. So beauty can also be looked not only at the physical features, but the character of one within a given norm or union.
So are you saying that you can judge a person's beauty by the kind of language that they use? Is that
exactly? Like we are maybe within the Ghanaian settings, is it the Achins or whatever, you know, most people love that very culture, and it is referred to often. Even when they have to really rebuke somebody, they politely do.
But is that still acceptable? I mean, you're just not insulting me, but you're doing it politely. That doesn't make, either way, it's a negative. It doesn't make it positive.
It could be positive or negative. Example,
Sorry,
you try to be stupid, okay? And perhaps I want to tell you not to be stupid. Not to be stupid is a caution word. It's not an insult.